Dear sir, I'm outraged at the service I received from your establishment today. The gentleman that served me, if you can call him a gentleman, had no idea of customer service. I hope that you do something about it, or I won't return. Outraged from Auckland. I'm so sorry, but today I'm handing in my resignation. I like you, and I like working for you, but I find the atmosphere in the office quite toxic, and I can't put up with it anymore, and I'll be leaving at the end of the week. Does any of this sound familiar to you? Have you received complaints from your customers about the service given by one of your employees? Do you frequently get lame excuses from your employees when you ask them to do something? Are your good employees leaving for no apparent reason? Or maybe you're just simply frustrated as hell that your employees aren't performing up to your standards. If any of these questions apply to you, then the chances are that you have a disengaged employee in your business. But hey, don't feel alone, because there are more of these disengaged employees in New Zealand than you may think. In fact, research suggests that 1 in every 10 New Zealand employees is disengaged. So if 1 in 10 are disengaged, who does that make everyone else? Well, in rough terms, about 3 in 10 are actively engaged. Now, these are the employees who will go that extra mile for you. So, for example, they will be the ones who stay late at night to finish that urgent piece of work without being asked to do so. They will come up with those great ideas for a new marketing initiative or how to save that extra bit of cash. Now, it would be absolutely fantastic if all our employees were like this, but hey, we live in the real world, and unfortunately the real world doesn't quite work how we want it to. So we have disengaged and we have engaged employees, which kind of leaves the rest, which is about 6 in 10 who are simply ambivalent. Now, ambivalent employees are neither engaged nor disengaged. They come into work, they do what they need to do, they leave at 5 o'clock, collect their paycheck, and so it goes on. Now, the problem, or if you look at it another way, a great thing about ambivalent employees is that they are easily influenced. You see, they are the followers. Put them with an engaged employee and they will move higher up the engaged scale. But put them with a disengaged employee and, well, you guessed it, all of a sudden you have a disengaged workforce. So if you end up with a disengaged employee, you have a problem, because very soon you will end up with a disengaged workforce, and that really is a problem. And don't take my word for it, let's take a quick look at the research. You see, an engaged workplace has a 95% higher return on assets than a disengaged workplace. An engaged workplace has 29% higher retention rates. And crucially, an engaged workplace has 60% more sales than a disengaged workplace. And let's face it, we all want more sales, right? So if you want an engaged workplace, and therefore a successful business where everyone who comes into work enjoys what they do, then you need to take action straight away as soon as you realise that one of your employees is disengaged. Now, that may seem obvious, right? But it's amazing how many employers don't take action. Why? Well, there are a couple of reasons. The first one is simply that very few people like confrontation. Now, there are some people who thrive on confrontation. In fact, their whole life is one confrontation after another. In fact, your disengaged employee is probably exactly like that. And let's face it, that scares the hell out of you, because you are one of those people that doesn't like confrontation. So if you're put in a room with someone who thrives on confrontation, you immediately feel way out of your depth and very uncomfortable. So the easy answer is simply to avoid the confrontation in the first place and do nothing about your disengaged employee. Of course, that means less sales, more staff churn, and all that other stuff we just talked about, so it's kind of not really an option. Okay, so we need to get over all this confrontation stuff. But before I tell you how to do that, let me tell you the second reason many business owners don't like doing anything about disengaged employees. You see, if getting rid of a disengaged employee was simply a question of sending them an email saying you're fired, then there wouldn't be a problem. Okay, so it's a bit confrontational, but it's all over in the click of a mouse. But unfortunately, the law doesn't allow us to do that. No, the law says we have to go through a process of letters and meetings, which prolongs the whole agony. What's worse, if you don't do that, or if you say the wrong thing, or you step out of line in some way, then you get what every employer dreads: the PG. No, we're not talking about a brand of tea bags, we're talking about the personal grievance. Now, let's face it, personal grievances are bad for business. Why? Well, first it means you prolong the whole confrontation thing. Now we're not talking about a dismissal process, but possibly a whole court case. And that's going to cost you time and money to defend it. And finally, there's a reasonable chance that you will end up having to pay your disengaged employee some money to get rid of the personal grievance. So that's confrontation, time, and money. So if we don't want to have to deal with a PG, then maybe the best answer is to avoid dealing with our disengaged employee. Okay, but that's less sales, more staff turnover, and let's not forget, your place of work is now a really crap place to work. And who wants to go to work in a crap place of work? Not even you, even if you own the business. So where to from here? Well, it looks like we're going to have to bite the bullet and deal with our disengaged employee without ending up with a PG on our hands. Easier said than done, I hear you say. Well, for most employers, that's absolutely right. But you see, Anne and I have helped businesses deal with disengaged employees for a long time now, and we've never had the problem of having to deal with the dreaded PG. So that must mean that getting rid of disengaged employees without getting a PG is not impossible, right? Absolutely. But of course, we're experts, and because we've done this stuff for a while, we've got pretty good at it over the years. You see, we've seen all the tricks that employees play in these situations. You know what they'll do to avoid a dismissal and trap you into a personal grievance. And crucially, we've learned to outsmart them, and you can do the same thing too. Think of it like a game of chess. Now, if someone came up to you and asked you whether you knew how to play chess, you might say, sure, I know. The bishop moves diagonally, the rooks move forward, and the knights do that forward and to the side shimmy thing. Okay, so you kind of know the moves, right? Now put yourself up against a grand chess master and it's checkmate in 5 moves. You see, knowing chess is not just about knowing the moves, it's a game of strategy. It's knowing which moves to make and when. Now it's exactly the same with disengaged employees. Believe me, these days disengaged employees know the moves too. It doesn't take long to search the Department of Labour website or ring the Department of Labour helpline to get some good tricks on how to play the game. And if they've done it before, which let's face it, they probably have, then not only do they know the moves, but they are also practiced. So again, where does that leave you? Now, you don't need to be an expert in getting rid of disengaged employees like me to avoid a personal grievance. All you need is to know more moves than your disengaged employee so you can outsmart him or her. Basically, you need to be smarter and more practiced. Now, imagine going into a performance management process or some other dismissal process knowing that you know more moves and can outsmart your employee. How's that going to make you feel? Well, I can tell you it's going to make you feel a whole lot more comfortable when you know what to do. You see, fear of confrontation is often born out of a fear of being outsmarted and ending up on the losing side. And nobody wants to end up a loser, right? Least of all to one of your employees. So the answer to disengaged employees is not to put your head in the sand and do nothing. No, it's to get real smart on how to manage things like poor performance and to get real smart about how you go through a dismissal process. And that is what this video series is all about. So if you haven't subscribed yet to this series, do so now. If you have, then there is nothing left for you to do other than to look out for the link to the next video in your inbox in a day or so.